You're watching HCAM TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. HCAM News Director Tom Nappy here. In the first half hour, we'll be talking some sports with Jared Keene of the Metrowest Daily News. And in the second half hour, we'll replay our interview with Chief Bennett from this past June as he talked about scams during COVID. But right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Mike Tarosian, as well as Jared Keene from the Metrowest Daily News. Guys, how are you today?
Doing fantastic. How you doing, Tom? Hey, Jared.
Doing great, Tom. Hey, Mike. How you doing? Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Can you believe tomorrow is MLB opening day?
Long overdue.
A little bit hard to believe, but, you know, we'll take it. We'll take it.
July 23rd, MLB opening day.
Yep.
I hope we never have to say that again.
Hey, Mike, nice hat, by the way. Great
like
hat.
That? Yeah.
Love that.
Gotta
That's
represent.
suave, man.
It was very nice of the manager to give this to me. I think it was last year, right, Tom?
That's right.
Yeah.
Coach Obed taking good care of us.
And it's not easy for me to wear an Ashland hat, you know?
Oh, absolutely. But it's the good Ashland team that has some Hopkinton guys, and it's a community team.
I'm going with my dad's alma mater today, Long Beach State. Got the Long Beach State hat and actually Long Beach State long sleeve shirt as well. So
there you go.
I was going to wear my Red Sox jersey, but it's still a little too warm for that today.
Yeah.
Is that where you went? Was the Long Beach State?
No, that's where my dad went.
Oh, okay, nice.
My dad grew up in California and lived in Long Beach, California for a long time. So he went to college out there and everything. And yeah, I went to Quinnipiac in Connecticut.
Ah, there you go. Quinnipiac has some, I believe, good hockey, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, absolutely.
So tomorrow, MLB opening night, we got the Yankees against the defending World Series champion Washington Nationals. We got the San Francisco Giants and the Dodgers in the West Coast 10 o'clock game. Two great matchups to start off this 60-game season. And then, of course, the Red Sox, they will open the following day on the 24th against the Baltimore Orioles at 7:30 p.m. Guys, how excited are you for some Major League Baseball? And I'm just happy that we have some type of season after all the craziness that went on with the negotiations and trying to get to this point.
Mike, I'll let you tackle this first for sure.
Oh, my goodness. Don't get me started with this. You know what? Every time that you get the unions involved and, well, hey, I know that sounds good for you owners, but you know what? It doesn't sound good for us. Hey, listen, I'm just glad it's going.
Any predictions on what's going to happen this year, guys?
Jared, you handle that.
I really don't have any predictions, to be completely honest with you. It's tough to say at this point. How rusty are some of these guys going to be? What's what's kind of the feeling? Who's gonna play? What's gonna happen? Kind of. Obviously, kind of the initial prediction would be to say something like the Yankees or the Dodgers,
right?
But who knows, man?
That's what I think the great thing about a 60-game season is. You don't know because it's so different.
Exactly.
Each game is essentially worth what, 3.5 games from what it normally would be. So one hot streak, one cold streak could make or break a season. I kind of
definitely.
Like it. So, Jared, what has the Metrowest Daily News and yourself been covering lately? We do have some summer baseball back. Have you got involved in any of that action?
A little bit. I'm going to try to get into a little bit more too. We're still trying to kind of work on how many games a week we want to cover. Everything, and kind of, we're trying to find a mix of covering Legion and also making sure to cover some Senior Babe as well. I got to cover a Franklin versus Northborough Legion game Not this past weekend, but the previous weekend. And, it was good being out there. I know Ken McDonald a little bit, the Northborough manager. He's a really good guy. Joe Mackey from Franklin, another great guy. Yeah, I mean, again, it was just great to be out there, and I think, obviously, and I think I kind of wrote about this in my story, but from what I saw at my game, things were pretty normal besides the sight of some masks. The home plate umpire was wearing a mask, but Don Fredericks, Kirk Fredericks' dad, legendary Braintree coach, I believe, he was doing first base and he was not wearing a mask, but everything just kind of seemed normal. There was a lot of people there, but it seemed like people could space themselves out enough where they weren't too close to each other. And if they were close to each other, they were family or really, really good friends, it seemed like. I was kind of walking around trying to get a sense of just what was going on. And, it was interesting for sure. I'm looking forward to getting back out there. And I think I'm actually going to do a little summer league basketball actually on Friday over in Millis.
Nice.
Very nice.
So
Nice
mix it up a little
basketball.
bit. And I think we also might be doing a field goal kicking contest today, I want to say. I think that might be happening with some of the local kickers from around the area.
Oh, do you remember any of them off the top of your head?
I think Parker Chevrant from Franklin might be in it. I think Sean Lehane, probably from Milford.
Ooh, two very
I
good
think
kickers there.
Is probably one of the favorites. Yeah, I didn't get too many details on that, but I think that was going down today. So
Didn't Lehane break the record? He hit I forget how many yards. Was it 45 or something like that?
I was going to say my guess was, I think it was like 43 or something, but it was somewhere around there. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
So how's the kicking contest work? Do they just have each kicker pretty much kick 10 attempts and whoever has the most wins?
I'm actually a little unsure, Tom. I didn't get kind of the full details from Tommy Castle, who kind of runs the show at our paper, for those that don't know. But yeah, I mean, I imagine it's going to be kind of something sort of along those lines where each kicker kind of gets a certain amount of attempts from certain yardages and, so yeah, but that'll be interesting.
That'll be cool.
I'll be kind of interested to see kind of who's there covering it and all that. So yeah.
And when and where is that?
I believe that was today.
Okay.
I believe that's actually happening today. So
excellent. Well, we look forward to seeing the results. I'll put my money on Lehane. He has a tremendous leg.
He's got a leg, that's for sure.
Since I don't get to do my first game until tomorrow, weather permitting, what have the crowds been like at the games? You both have been out there.
Yeah, I'll take this question first. It's been good. It's been good crowds, pretty much the typical crowds. And obviously, it's not like a Major League Baseball crowd where you're going to have hundreds of people, but you got a lot of the parents there. There's been some alum that we've seen at the Ashland Sevens games. A couple of the players from last year's team showed up to root on this year's team, and they've been pretty responsible, staying socially distanced, as Jared mentioned. And it's been a good atmosphere, a very good atmosphere. And some stadiums or some fields have different restrictions than others. Some of them, if you're a fan, you have to keep the mask on. Some of them, once you're socially distanced, you could take the mask off. But people are following the rules. There hasn't been any trouble from what I've seen. And it's been a great atmosphere. And it's been really good to have some summer baseball back.
I think I mentioned as well at the Franklin game that I was at in Franklin, Franklin is a very baseball heavy town. I mean, Franklin obviously loves their sports, as you know, Tom.
Oh, absolutely.
But there was a healthy crowd that day, very healthy, and I think you've been to the baseball field in Franklin. It's very spacious, spread out and stuff around. And there was people in the Northborough, plenty of people on the Northborough side, tons of people on the Franklin side, kind of all scattered around and everything, and tons of people in the stands. And that was a good sized crowd for sure. And from what I've heard from some of the others, there's been pretty decent crowds. I think also some of it depends on where you're doing the game and kind of maybe how big baseball is there and everything. And, maybe you're doing maybe a Legion game, maybe has been drawing a bigger crowd than a Senior Babe game or something. So,
And
yeah, some factors, but yeah.
Yeah, and the Ashland Sevens, they've drawn a great crowd the last couple of years, and that tradition has continued this year as well. They've drawn a great crowd, especially to their home games. The one that they had in Holliston against Milton, which was a wild game. That was their only loss of the season, but it went back and forth. Some great comebacks there by Ashland, but that was a great crowd on hand there that night.
I'm gonna try to get out. I told Tommy actually I want to try to get out and see Ashland next week. So I think Ashland might be on the road a couple of times this week, but.
Well, I'm interested to get your take on that Franklin team because we're going to be in Franklin next week covering the Ashland Sevens taking on Franklin. So I know
I'm going to try to be there. I believe that's next Thursday, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to try to get on that. So
absolutely. What are your thoughts on that Franklin team from what you saw the other day?
I mean, they were good. They can hit. They obviously, I think, have a pretty deep pitching staff as well, and just seem relatively fundamentally sound. And obviously they got some really talented players, Alex Haba, Scott Elliott, to name a couple. And yeah, I mean, that's going to be a team that's going to be a force to be reckoned with, I think, going forward as well, for sure. Just a lot of talent, a lot of depth, and if I get that game, I'd be really looking forward to seeing them against Ashland, who I've heard is also obviously very good.
And that is that's going to be a great game. As soon as the schedule came out, that was the game that I immediately put a star next to. I'm like, gotta do this one. This is going to be a battle.
Yep.
Franklin, I believe they were the state champions high school wise last year. And they also had a very good Legion season as well. Great baseball town. I think there'll be a lot of fans for that game since it's pretty close to Ashland as well. And Franklin draws a big crowd, and it's going to be a great atmosphere there.
I couldn't agree more.
Hey, Jared,
I just hope that I get it. And even if I don't get it, I might go watch it anyway. So.
Jared, you're talking about getting the games and so forth. So just for the people at home that don't understand how sports journalism works, is it editor's choice? Do you arm wrestle the other reporters? How do you get the games?
It's interesting because I think if there's certain games I think that you can try to find, and if you tell Tommy that you want them, he might let you have them. But he's also out of the field covering. He also wants to get out in the field covering stuff too.
Sure.
And I think he obviously has first crack at it since he kind of runs the show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little worried that he might take the crack at that Ashland Franklin game and jump on it, but yeah, I mean, it's just kind of sometimes he'll assign it, and sometimes it's a little bit of both, Mike. Yeah, I mean, if he's got a game that he wants you to do, he'll tell you. But also, if you want to, kind of find something, if you find something that you like and want to go for it.
Gotcha. So not only would it be bad if he decided to take the game, but adding salt to the wound, he would assign you a different game at the same time. Because if you have the day off, you're gonna go to the game anyways.
Right. Oh, you can't do that one, but you can go do this 2-8 team down the street.
Yeah. Hey, we heard the middle school's playing over there in Ashland. Can you cover that?
Yeah. And I do quickly want to mention we are live on Facebook today. We're live on YouTube. If anybody has any questions for Jared from the Metrowest Daily News, let us know. Or if you have any comments about upcoming sports or games you've been to, certainly let us know on our Facebook or YouTube live feeds. And we'll be happy to answer your questions and get those comments out there. So, Jared, yesterday the MIAA voted fall high school sports season will start on September 14th. Typically, it starts in very late August. And I've also heard that, obviously, it's a possibility that fall sports doesn't happen. I think it depends a lot on what the schools do, if students are even allowed at school, which hopefully they will be, of course. If that's the case, let's say they don't happen, do you think football could be moved from fall to spring? I know some other states have done that, and I've heard it mentioned as a possibility here.
Tom, I think I think at this point, and this might be ridiculous to say, but I think at this point, almost anything is possible or not possible. And that sounds so cliche to say. Do I think it could be moved? Do I think it could be moved from fall to spring? Yeah, I do. And I can see it happening, but I could also easily not see it happening, and
what I was really looking for there, did you hear any rumors under?
No, I have not. No, I personally have not heard any rumors.
You mean you don't have these 80s saying, "Hey, off the record."
Where's all those connections?
Where is everybody?
I would spill the beans maybe if I did, but
I heard it here first, folks.
But yeah, I think just kind of getting back to the initial date, moving high school sports back a couple of weeks, I just kind of look at that in itself as, are they kind of really just doing what they can to ensure a season happens? Or again, is that kind of just leading towards the maybe inevitable of actually not having the season?
You know what I think, and someone might have mentioned this on the show yesterday, but I thought this was a very good theory. They might have moved it a couple of weeks to see how school goes for a couple of weeks before they start the sports season.
That's right.
Yeah, because one of the big things that we heard from from the superintendent and superintendents everywhere, from Board of Health everywhere. We'll learn more tomorrow from our Board of Health. But one of the big things that we're hearing is the plans. They have to come up with like 3 options. Back to school, half back, half at home, and then all at home kind of things. So we're hearing that story. Now, once they decide that, then you're going to get the teachers unions involved to say, oh, what's going to happen. So you see the push along, and to come up, what we're doing right now, we're just trying to get all the hypotheticals out of the way. One of the big things that I'd love to see, that when they decide what the rules are, 2 parents at a game or 2 guests at a game, how they called it, and a parent, oh, well, I have the right to be here and all that. I just hope whatever happens, that everyone just follows those rules, because what's going to happen if they decide no fans at the games, right? And then that keeps us in business. We do some live streaming so everyone can see it. But one of the things that I see is, once the parents start saying, well, I get the right to be here, and so on and so forth, those are the kind of things that puts the brakes on everything. And I'm just hoping, let the officials, the experts, work this out and just tell us what we got to do. That's what I'm hoping.
One thing I have to imagine is, looking at the size of some of the football crowds, there's most likely going to be some type of restriction.
Oh, definitely.
On how many people could be at the football game.
Sure.
Especially when you're at a big game, if you're at, if you're at like Holliston against Ashland or something, something that, a couple of good teams going at it, a couple of passionate towns with passionate fans. I think you're spot on there, Tom, for sure.
Yeah, so obviously we're all hoping that the season goes on. And if school goes well and the first couple of weeks go well and students are back in classes, I think the fall season will go as planned. May they move some of the contact sports to spring and keep some of the other sports in the fall that aren't really contact sports going? That's a possibility too. As everyone has said, anything's on the table at this point. But I think a lot of it's going to depend on the numbers and how school goes.
Let's think about some of the fall sports as well. You mentioned contact sports or non-contact sports. You got football, obviously, but then you got sports like soccer.
Soccer, it's not as much contact as football, but it's close proximity.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is, even if it's not contact, it's still, same with something like field hockey or something, or.
Well, bring it inside, and then you get volleyball.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't get any more closer than that. 6 on the court, and you have them bumping into each other, whatever. Granted, fan-wise, Yeah, you can spread out the fans. That's easy enough to do. But now you're talking inside. They'd rather see you outside. And the other talk, the listening to all the health experts through all the updates, you're also hearing that the warm weather is better. So, okay, warm weather is better. Are we going to see Saturday and Friday afternoon games? Because don't forget, we still got Triple E around here.
Right.
Look what that did to us last year.
Right.
Oh, if football happens, and I think every sport is pretty much should be an afternoon sport. And football for much of the season was last year.
Right.
Right.
Because of the Triple E threat, because of the virus threat, and obviously the heat is better against the virus. So yeah, I don't envision too many night games in the fall.
And that will also keep the fans down because people will still be working, whether they're at home or whatever. I think you're going to see the lesser crowds as well. And I can see them, the boosters are going to lose because they'll have to shut down the doghouse because you're not going to be able to serve that kind of thing because those volunteers don't have that kind of training that our restaurant workers have. So you're going to see a whole different thing that I just want to see the kids play. I think kids need this. The kids need to get back in the classrooms one way or the other. There's ways to do it. Yes, these classrooms are cramped.
Well, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
I don't want to get on that rant.
But hey, I think it'll make the media coverage of these games even more important because there'll be a lot of people that probably can't go because there'll probably be some type of limitation, or there'll be a lot of afternoon games and people are working. So I think it'll make our jobs certainly even more valuable than they already are, so people could see these games and hear about these games or read about them.
Definitely. I agree.
So I do want to get into the NFL. They have come up with a COVID-19 plan. Better late than never, I guess. They are eliminating preseason games. And I don't like this at all. I don't think you need 4 for sure, but at least 2. I would love to have 2 preseason games because I think with a lot of teams, they have some things to work out, such as the Patriots. You're going to go with Newton or Stidham. Don't you want to see him in preseason a couple of times in live action before, the season starts? Obviously, I think teams are probably going to scrimmage against each other a lot more and probably have a full squad type of scrimmage situation. But as somebody that agrees that 4 preseason games, even on a regular situation, is too much, I think 2 would be perfect. How do you guys feel about the elimination of preseason games?
Well, I'll tell you from a fan point of view, since the only time I ever get tickets are for preseason games, usually. But since I'm not going to be there, I don't care. I think, do the networks want the preseason games? Absolutely, because they want to televise something. I believe they need to allow some kind of scrimmaging. You just can't be playing your own guys all the time. Because I'm sorry, they do know what's going on. And I think it's important to play scrimmages. Get a scrimmage. I don't care if I get to watch them. Just get the scrimmage because the first 3 weeks of football are going to be terrible.
Jared, what are your thoughts about this?
I have some interesting thoughts here, Tom. I'm first off, I'm one that's never been a fan of preseason games. I'm not really a preseason guy, to be honest. I think in certain aspects, maybe of the game, it can be useful. But there's always some sort of injuries to a big name player that ends up being in a game when he shouldn't be, and that ends up tearing his ACL, or something like that. And you hate to see stuff like that, but then again, as yeah, sure, it helps kind of maybe get some guys in rhythm, and you get to look at some different guys that you might be on the mend about or something. But I think I think generally, I guess maybe what you were saying, Tom, I think 4 preseason games is too many. Maybe 1 or 2 could be okay. Particularly, and I will say actually, particularly this season when, a lot of teams are going to need to kind of be freshening up a little bit, and to ensure that, like Mike said, that, that the play on the field is not terrible for the first like 3 weeks of the season, which could definitely be a possibility. But I think this is a situation where, yeah, I again, as against preseason as I am for the most part, I think this is a situation where I think you're probably right, Tom. Maybe 2 this season could be really, really useful. Again, like you said, good look at some guys like Stidham. Maybe I know we have Newton and everything now, but yeah, just kind of to figure some things out.
And I
look at
think
a couple guys. That's it.
I think you brought up an interesting point about injuries, because what I'm curious to see, with no preseason games, you have live action and practices against your own team and stuff like that,
Right.
and scrimmages. But what's the injury situation going to be like with no preseason games? Is it going to increase the amount of injuries because maybe some guys aren't as in shape as they would normally be, or aren't as ready as they would normally be to play against an opponent?
More susceptible to injury, yeah.
Right. So I think that is going to be very interesting to see. I do think, if I had to guess, that totally eliminating the preseason games may increase the amount of injuries, because guys won't be ready for that full out contact, and they won't be ready for those game situations. But at the same time, maybe it doesn't. Maybe everything stays the same. But I won't be too surprised if you see more injuries, especially since part of training camp has really been kind of just cut off. And the first 5 days, I believe, as soon as they check in, they got to get tested for the virus and go to quarantine for 5 days or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think 1 or 2 would have been great. I think it would have got players maybe even a little bit more conditioned or ready for actual full contact football against an opponent. And it would have allowed teams to evaluate the talent that they have. And obviously, with no preseason games, you're just kind of going right into the season. There's no shaking off any of the cobwebs. You're just getting right into the action. So I don't know. I think the injury level might go up with no preseason game.
That's certainly possible. Again, you bring up a good point about that, but and again, I think this year more so than other years, because again, like you said, you don't know maybe how good a shape guys are going to be in and all that stuff. And I think a lot of guys have been conditioning, maybe working with each other, at kind of remote locations or whatever to ensure that they're keeping in shape and doing what they need to do. But yeah, I think, and obviously, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players that will, again, dedicate themselves, players like Edelman. I'm sure Edelman's been out there obviously grinding his butt off.
Right. He was the guy that fell to a preseason injury not too long ago.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be kind of, that'll be interesting to kind of see what happens there with that. I'm very curious about that.
Mike, what are your thoughts about the injuries?
They're going to happen no matter what, however they play, who they play against. I mean, I've seen injuries at practices.
You think they're going up, though, with no preseason?
If it's true that they weren't conditioning because they had no ways to condition. I mean, you tell me Brady found no way to condition? I'm
right,
sure
that's what I'm saying, Mike, is I think a lot of people are finding ways to actually condition.
They're doing it. They're doing it on their own, one way or the other, because they know how to do it. They've been doing this for so long. Do I see younger players, out of the college, recent drafts, first, second year players? Maybe they don't have the regiments as a seasoned veteran. So.
All right. And we have just about a minute left or so. So I want to get some quick thoughts. Who do you think's winning the Stidham-Newton battle? I say Cam Newton. He's more experienced, more conditioned. I don't think Stidham's ready to be a starter just yet, but I think he's a player to look out for. What do you guys think?
Couldn't agree more. I second everything you just said.
I'm with you 100% too. Do I think Stidham could start? Yes. Do you think it's going to be a good start? No. But Cam Newton.
And, one of the biggest bummers about no preseason games, I was looking forward to seeing Stidham versus Newton in these preseason games.
Yes,
put up the better numbers. This was an important preseason.
Real quick, I just want to grab this in before we go. Major League Baseball, piping in the sounds. Players love it. I think that'll be nice watching on TV. Now they are selling seats to have your picture stay up there.
I saw that.
So,
I saw that in a few soccer games.
So you'll be behind the backstop. You'll see faces in the seats. People paying $500,000-$600,000. Again, another reason why I can't afford to go to a baseball game.
All right. Well, we got to wrap it up. Jared, thanks so much for joining us. We're excited to have sports back, and we'll certainly do this again soon.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for having me, guys. I'll keep you guys updated, and hopefully I'll see you guys next week at that Franklin Ashland game.
Absolutely. Awesome. Hoping to see you there. All right.
Awesome.
There, Jared.
Great stuff today, guys.
Great stuff, Jared. Thanks again.
Thanks, man.
So in the second half of the show, we're going to replay our interview with Chief Bennett from this past June, talking scams during COVID. But right now, let's send it to Matt Clark to give you an update of what else is coming up this week. Matt, take it away.
Thanks, Tom. Well, obviously tonight, as always, we have the Gathering in Quarantine with Terry Malisi, which is always good. Tomorrow on the Hangout Hour, we have Sean and Casey back from the Health Department to give us another Board of Health update. And then tomorrow night, we have the school committee meeting airing live on HCAM Ed. We also have tomorrow night the first new show we've produced since we've been in quarantine, a new episode of What's Out There with Margie Wiggin, where they're taking a look at the Rockwood Meadow Trail in town, which should be exciting. And then Friday on the show, we have I'm going to be hosting another Geek Week with Randy Gustafson from the schools. So we have a great week.
Terrific. And right now we'll send it to our interview with Chief Bennett.
For the second half, we have Hopkinton Police Chief Joe Bennett joining us. And we're going to talk about what's been going on here with where we started our phase 2, but it's been a couple weeks since we spoke to him, and we want to know, hey, Chief, what's going on in town?
Hey, Mike. Hey, Bob. Hi, Chief.
So, okay, we're been a few weeks since we last talked. How is the wonderful policing have been in this community with COVID-19 through phase 1?
We're doing all right. We've adopted a lot of ways that we've spoken about, you and I, before. The way we handle calls and the way we work within the building. So we're still doing everything that we were in since the beginning. You call us to your home, instead of getting an officer who sits in your kitchen with you and talks about something, you're going to be standing outside. And we know that that's not the level of service we want to give, but unfortunately, it's all we can do right now.
Right. That's right. You're not just keeping yourself safe, you're keeping them safe.
Right. I mean, we have a lot of officers that would probably not ever show a symptom. So other than we hope that a low fever that we can catch on our daily screening, but they would walk around they're all pretty healthy, and they probably wouldn't get the severe form of it. And we don't want to get anybody sick.
Right. So now it's phase 2. At what point? Let's talk about phase 2. Well, before we get to phase 2, just recently we're hearing about these COVID scams. Have you up to date on some of the latest ones?
So the biggest thing going on in town right now is the unemployment fraud. We're getting 5 or 6 of those a day of people that are actually calling us. And so that means that's only a small sampling. A lot of people won't call once they know that they're not out any money. So as far as the COVID scams, it's classic, solicitation of donations and GoFundMe pages being set up to raise money. And, that's the classic moves that they do around every tragedy.
So yeah, we have that scam. And has there been any more reports of the technicians want to come into the house? We still got that going on, or
we haven't had any more reports of that.
Okay, because a lot of people, I know they do that, and I know that the town shut off their permits to the solicitors, right, for the door-to-door.
Yes, if you have, no one is authorized right now to solicit.
Can you explain for people at home, because now as the Commonwealth is opening, can you explain to our viewers what the policy is so they can, keep an eye out for their own neighborhood and be aware? Tell them what the policy is for people that want to do door-to-door.
If someone wants to solicit door-to-door, if they are a company, they have to become permitted as a company. And then each individual person becomes permitted and they're given an ID from the town that we use. So you'll see them with a lanyard, and it's official town of Hopkinton solicitor permit. So if they don't have that, they're violating the bylaw that was approved at town meeting, and give us a call and we'll come out and explain the proper way to register.
And that's the first thing you should ask for if someone's at your door. Hey, do you have an ID? And they're not going to show you their license. They're going to show you that first, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Or they're going to say, oh, no, we don't need one, or they ran out. No, you don't run out of those things.
Right. And then we vet them. So what ends up happening is once people find out about that we have a permitting process, the typical, the magazine salespeople that come out, usually with the most criminal people involved, they all but disappeared once we implemented this.
Sure.
There were some people with some really violent history and a lot of property crimes coming from out of the state, and they put them in a van, drop them off all around town, and that the bylaw put an end to that. So that was helpful.
I wanted to ask Chief on some of these so-called scams, and it's very hard for me as an elderly person to recognize what is a scam and what isn't. But when I see what I think are phony emails or a lot of robo-phone calls, if I take down that information and send it to the police department, what happens to it? Do you follow up on it? Can you trace it down? How does that work?
So the phone ones are almost impossible to really follow through on. And if there's no actual loss, I mean, we get handfuls of those scam phone calls a day. Now we're getting 4 to 6 a day just on unemployment alone, let alone all the other ones. So we don't have the resources to go out and track that. And a lot of it is generated outside of the country. So we wouldn't have any authority to enforce it outside our borders anyways. If somebody does lose money though, what I want them to know is there's no shame in it. People are losing money every day. The sooner you do come to us, the faster we can act and maybe get your money back. But as days pass, the money just becomes vaporized, and so they're very professional. That money disappears out of the account or off that card that you give them quickly, and And you should know a few basics about scams. The IRS does not call people. They never will call you.
Never call.
Never once. So if they call you, we're not going to come arrest you because you owe property, because you owe your income tax. And the best thing to do with them is to listen for a little bit and waste their time a little bit if you want, or put the phone down, and in that 10 seconds is another call that they could have made. So as far as anything in the mail, be suspect of anything in the mail, any grammatical errors, look at the address lines. And if you do feel that you want to contact the person, let's say you get a letter from the IRS, go to their website and get the numbers and contact off of that. Don't click on any link in an email, and don't use any phone numbers that you're given. Go to the source sites and get that information from them and begin there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, if you ever tried calling the IRS, they don't even answer the phone, so they're not making phone calls.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, but we love the government. Yes. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Who's probably monitoring the show right now? They could be watching that. Look out the window.
They probably own Zoom.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah, I'll go on Facebook and there'll be an ad about IRS on there next. Okay. So other popular scams that I know that have been going on other than the IRS is you owe on a late gas bill. That was another one that was going around, I think, last year. I think those have died down a lot. But it sounds like your advice to viewers would be, if it sounds questionable, don't act on it right away. Don't think it's real, because well, I did pay my taxes. Why is it saying that I owe taxes?
Sure.
Nine times out, oh my goodness, and no one is looking to give you money, and no, you are not related to a Nigerian prince who just passed away. Right?
Right. We're more than happy to look at what you've been given or talk to you about it. And Google is a great tool as well. If you get something, if you take a couple sentences from the document throw it in Google, search it, it'll come up. I got this scam thread. You'll find out pretty quickly. Additionally, another sensitive population of the elderly right now.
I was just gonna say,
They're sheltered in place. They're vulnerable, and they're subject to this time of the year. They'd be getting the calls about their grandson that is down in Mexico and got arrested or got in a car accident, and he has to pay for the repair of the car right now. Go to the store, get a card, and scratch the back off, or money wire money to somewhere.
right.
Those are all scams, and they go through your information. They get information by listening at the doctor to when you give your name and address and your illness, and you talk about your upcoming vacation in public. There's a lot of ways where we can share information that gives them just enough to bed a kernel of truth into their story, so they know if they see on your social media you wishing someone good luck going away, they know the person's going away. They just need a little bit to get started, and then spend a few minutes just digging a little bit, and then they throw that kernel of truth that gets the hook.
The social media was a big one, and as you now know, as I listen to the kids today, Facebook, oh, that's for old people. So as I hear that, the Facebook scams that go on, two things. One, nice products that are real cheap, but the other one is where they play these games like your Star Wars name is your birth month and birth year, whatever. And so they will take what you wrote and then say, oh, Mike Terosian's birthday is April of 1966.
Sure.
So again, that's how you give out information over social media publicly, not just to whoever is running that game, but people can read your social media if you don't have your settings set to private, which most people don't, because it'd be being less social, I guess. But
it also can. I just learned that sometimes the settings during updates and stuff, the settings will change. Your privacy setting can actually be changed by an outside source.
They want it back to the public, right? And that's why another great thing is when you're logging into a site, would you like to connect via Facebook? Well, that basically means you're giving more of your information out to somebody else.
Absolutely.
You always want to create a unique username and password. I like the usernames better than giving your email address, because you can always create a new username or a unique username.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mike. It really is.
It's just one of the few things that I try to do to keep myself safe. So,
and then as far as your passwords go, it gets easy to use the same password, and we've all been told don't do that, and to have a complex password. I was District Attorney Mary and Ryan presented last week to the seniors in town, and if you make a password algorithm, if you will, if you use a word that's relative to the topic of the site you're going to, and then you can have a numbering series with a particular symbol, but then they're all different. And it's not like you wouldn't put HCAM 2020 with a star.
right.
You'd use a word like chat or mic or something that you remember. TV, right. And then you use that formula on all your different passwords.
Which is great. Now, the only trouble I run into, one of the best ones is on the telephone. So I log in my bank, but I have my thumbprint for the app. Yep. Well, I do more on my phone, so when it's time to go on the computer, oh, what's my right password? Now I'm locked out because I did it 5 times or something like that. Yes, passwords. It always too. Oh, when we open up the libraries and whatever again, log out of everything. Just don't X out the browser. Log out of everything.
Absolutely, and even our Chromebooks and our computers at home. Don't leave them, because to someone that's willing to break into your home, which fortunately we don't have very much of that at all here at all, and especially now that everybody's home. But don't leave your devices around unlocked. And some devices don't. You shut the top, like a Chromebook. you're still logged in, and it's saved all your passwords from all those
Right.
sites, and then you're given that $300 Chromebook just gave the keys to your financial kingdom away.
Yeah, it's funny because they do have apps that will manage your passwords for all these different sites, but if someone grabs a hold of that app and the data in there, then
Right.
it's toast.
It's like having the wallet, right? Where you put all your debit cards and everything into it.
So now you mentioned earlier about how the seniors are the most vulnerable, which everyone loves to take advantage of a nice senior. Will you, once we start breaking things down, getting back out to the seniors and doing your little workshops and your little presentations?
Absolutely. So we had one virtually, but I think the turnout would have been much larger in an in-person presentation. One of the things I'm excited about is we created a elder affairs officer, Officer Molly McGaffigan.
Oh, excellent.
Was selected after she presented an amazingly well thought out and insightful proposal. And we're kicked that off, and we're doing everything we can to get her connected with the seniors. So instead of a pop-in type thing by a detective or me, we'll have a constant communication with them, building it on the same model that we use for the SROs, where having them around, making them feel comfortable with us.
It's a familiar face, yeah.
Yep, and having one point of contact. We're really excited about it here.
Well, that's fantastic. Because one thing that you can never say about Hopkins is not having community policing, because you're there in the neighborhoods. I mean, you ask any 27-year-old, 30-year-old, they'll tell you the best community officer was Officer Buckley. Hey, where's your helmet? You don't have one? Oh, here's one out of the trunk. I mean, I remember these things, and it's always about educating, and it's always about helping. It's not about, hey, you're without a helmet. Let's go back in the cruiser, taking you home.
No,
it's never been like that.
That's not us. No.
Yeah. So that's like any more any little things. It's nice weather now. I saw Officer Stickney out on the motorcycle yesterday, having a good time, and I wish I was on mine, but.
Yeah, I think we all got to find a way to comfortably get back out and get moving, support our local businesses and local merchants, and
which now we can, and which gets us to our next topic is phase 2.
Right.
As the Commonwealth opens up a little bit more. I saw some people couldn't wait for Monday, and they cut the nylon ties on the basketball nets, so they were using the basketball courts this weekend.
Yeah. Everything's in full use. That's for sure. The parks and the fields are definitely being utilized.
Right. And the most current topic is how did yesterday's demonstration go on the Common?
Oh, it was so amazing. It was really special, and the turnout. I took a rough estimate of about 500 people.
Well, that doubled from the first one.
Yes, and I actually am so happy that I went, because I got a lot of good feedback from the community that they don't feel that we represent what the murder of George Floyd has caused to tear at the trust of law enforcement. But I had so many people during my conversations with them say, thank you for what you do. We like the police, and we support the police and the way you police this community and serve this, and a lot of thank you for your service comments. And I kind of needed that for myself, because it broke my heart to see that happen. And Mike, I've worked hard my whole life to care for the people here, and
absolutely.
And to have them think that I might, or any of us might act like that was.
I don't think you would have that problem there, Chief. I think the biggest problem is like what the big cities have. The outside groups there to stir things up to make a situation happen. I mean, I drove by before, I want to say like 2 hours before, and I didn't see a pallet of bricks dropped off on the Common or anything like that. I didn't see any of the stores downtown boarding up any windows.
No.
But this was a true community event.
But even, I never doubted that our community would do anything like that. That's not going to happen from our residents. But I worried that maybe in their hearts and in the back of their mind, maybe felt differently about us at HPD, but I saw none of that. So I went home feeling happy for a little bit there that had been missing. So thank you to everybody for all you said, and thank you for going out, and we were proud to stand with you.
Oh, that's excellent. That's great to hear. So now here we are, phase 2, and what new things can I walk in the police station yet just to say hi, or do I still have to wait till I have an emergency?
We're still waiting because of us. So we haven't done that, but today we're in a staff meeting coming up, and we're going to talk about ways we can bring it in. I've ordered some plexiglass things so that I can get people into that inner conference room. And I have to work out a solution for fingerprinting to resume applicants and permitting. So
LTCs and so forth.
Yeah, and solicitors and everybody else, and a lot of it. We do a lot of employment fingerprinting as well. So
that's kind of tough to do out in a public area. It's
not outside.
Yeah, meet you out back. Catch me in the Sally Port. We'll let you. Yeah.
So, in looking at it, our station is configured pretty well for, we can bring them in through a garage door, just as if where the prisoners move through.
Right.
And then the fingerprinting machine's right inside it. Well, you've seen it a bunch of times. So.
Tell them why I've seen it, Joe, please. Tell them why.
As a reporter.
As a reporter. Thank you very much for that one. Bob, help me out on this, right? Just as a reporter, right, Bob?
You're guilty. Oh, I'm sorry. That wasn't on, was it? No, you've been all over the police department, fire department, so I'm not surprised that you've had your fingerprints taken.
There you go. Did you have a question next, Bob?
No. I did have a question. I wanted to know, and you probably don't know, Chief, but I'll always ask it anyway. Do you have any idea when the town is projecting to open up town hall, library, those kind of services?
Yeah, they're working on it every day. Facilities is working on it, and they're trying to design a workflow and decide where people will be able to go, whether that means that people from the 3rd floor come down to the 2nd floor to a workstation or a kiosk, or where they need dividers for the work for the employees, and how they're going to handle the big open area, whether there is a small section that has a glass window and a push through, but in the open floor design and the welcoming floor design, you also have that big open window that's 8 feet wide. So those are the things they're working through, and I'm not directly involved in it, but I've heard them talking about doing. But there is a sense of urgency to get the public back in there and be able to serve the people face to face, because some people will just want that. Even if it can be done by mail or online, they want to go into their town hall, and they should be able to. And we all support that.
Well, thank you for that insight, because I hadn't even given that any consideration in my mind. I was just thinking, oh, they're going to open the town hall, they're going to open the library. I can go back to doing things the way I used to. That's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. There'll be limited capacity based on the guidance from the state, and so that's especially hard for the library to manage, where that's so open, and the size of per person. I heard a number of 400 square feet per person. So my training room would be 3 people, 2-point-something people.
Right.
So it's tough. There's a lot of work everybody's doing, and that's all the senior leaders are working through that process now.
So I bet the officers are still taking their roll calls outdoors, huh?
Yeah, they do them in Zoom now in the car.
They're doing it from the car.
Yeah, we use Hangouts. We're down to Google Shop. So
yeah, Google Shop, sure.
Yeah, and they're using some of the features within that to connect with the community as well. So
they don't have those fake backdrops like Mike does. It says they're behind the station.
Fake? What fake? Look at that. That's as real as it can get.
Hey, is that the farmer's market?
Oh no, that's your police night out.
Nice, I like it.
Yeah, so your cruise is right there.
Oh, beautiful. I was probably standing there.
You were there. Because I got your picture earlier.
Okay.
The other side. So,
funny, I saw the background we had a senior leader meeting last week. So Megan and I, the communications director, grabbed our lawn chairs and went up to the common and did it from there just to get out.
Yeah.
You know.
People are doing the best. I mean, I loved watching. I think it was a select board meeting, and one of the select members they were out on their deck. It's like,
Yeah.
what a way to go, you know? I could see, barbecuing up and voting on a budget item or something. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Just better be careful when you pick up your iced tea.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking about barbecuing, restaurants get to open with outdoor seating.
I'm very excited about that, and a lot of them have submitted their plans, and they look great. I've seen, and I'm afraid I'm going to leave somebody off, but I saw the 110 Grill, I saw Cornell's, and I saw like 6 of them. But and they're working it through, and it's great, you know.
Right, a lot of them are just waiting to get their alcohol license for outdoors because the town doesn't have an outdoor license. Well, licensing doesn't include the outdoors on a yearly license, so they have to get a special license for that. Correct?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I hear that. And do you see a problem? Are you involved in that process, and do you see a problem with that process?
I review them, and I think, why not? There's plenty of ways to. I think that one of the requirements should be probably to contain it, so you can't just take a beer and start walking around Main Street from the public house. But there's a way to build, like the 110 Grill. It has that little balcony area where
Yes.
on a sidewalk, and there's a fence there. I mean, could someone jump the fence if they're really determined? Of course, but
Yeah.
they're not walking back to their car with their full beer.
Yeah. You put them. You got them in a boundaries that they're just not walking away. And you also technically the bars aren't opening, and they're going to be limiting people to, I think, was it an hour and a half at a table or something.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have people stay there all day. So you're consuming food and alcohol for an hour and a half.
Yeah. And then that helps them turn the tables faster.
That's right. Yeah, because they're only limited so many seats.
Right.
And so forth. So now where a lot of people, like we'll say Cornell's, is going out into the parking lot, you see traffic being an issue for emergency vehicles such as yourself or an ambulance or anything?
No, I mean, Fire Chief Slamman looks at the plans from that eye and protecting the response. And we also have to consider maintaining, say, on Main Street, walkways for pedestrians just walking by the business. So those are all part of the permitting process, and each different department looks at it through their lens and protects those. I don't see. I think it's going really well. And
that's good to hear, because some people are tired of the styrofoam boxes, man. They want to get back and do
I know. Or spending your whole life in 2 places like I was. Here or at my house. Here at my house. That's it.
Well, at least you're lucky you get to go there. I can't even make it to the studio yet. So
right.
that's happening next. So what else are you looking forward to? We got about a minute left. What else is coming up that you're looking forward to? I mean, granted, we lost the fishing derby. We lose the police night out. Is there anything that you got left that you can give the community?
Don't forget bocce.
Yeah.
Bocce's is probably gone.
Yeah, we'll all bring our own individual balls.
Yeah, but I think the police department's happy they don't have to go back to play bocce.
Oh,
seniors really did it.
Oh, yeah, it would be nice to win one year.
Yeah, well, you did win once.
We did.
Yeah,
one and done, I guess.
That's when you got the medals too. I remember that.
Well, I guess that under my leadership, that'll have to be one of my primary goals.
Primary goals, yeah. Well, we'll be talking to Amy. We'll be talking to Amy on Friday, so we'll see what happens there. But Chief, thank you very much for coming on today. We're gonna get more updates tomorrow from Board of Health agent Sean McAuliffe and town nurse Casey Morrow. So we'll get some more insights of what's going on the inside. Thank you all for coming on, and thank you for watching Hopkinton Hangout Hour. For the second half, we have Hopkinton Police Chief Joe